We live in an age where men worship illusions, an age where people wear poverty like a medal, as though suffering were proof of virtue and lack were a crown of nobility. But hear me clearly. To appear poor is to invite chains. To act powerless is to summon predators. And to present yourself as weak is to carve the path for your own destruction. The world is not gentle. It does not reward the humble beggar. It does not pity the man who chooses to shrink. It rewards presence. It obeys strength. It kneels to power. And you, yes, you watching this, must decide whether you will walk into the arena armed or stripped bare for others to consume. Look around you. Every man and woman you see plays this game, whether they admit it or not. Status is the currency of survival. Presence is the weapon that bends others. Wealth, real or imagined, is the stage on which power performs. Machiavelli himself warned, "Men are judged by the eye rather than by the hand, for everyone can see you. Few can touch you." The eye does not ask if your fortune is genuine. It does not investigate the size of your vault. It only hungers for appearance, and appearance alone decides whether others treat you as ruler or prey. Pause here and ask yourself, how are you seen? When you step into a room, do heads turn? Do conversations pause? Or do you vanish into the air, another invisible figure in a crowd of nobodies? Invisibility is death, for men are not destroyed only by swords, but by silence. When no one notices you, no one protects you, no one fears you, and no one follows you. The poor man, whether truly poor or pretending to be so, is naked in a world of wolves. But here lies the paradox. The poor man may think he is safe because he does not compete. He tells himself, "If I hide my ambition, no one will target me." Yet his very lack becomes a beacon of vulnerability. It marks him as disposable, as a tool to be used, or as dust to be swept aside. Remember this law. The world respects only those who can strike back, and even more, it fears those who might strike first. So I tell you, never display poverty. Never diminish your presence. Never let your appearance suggest that you are easy to cage. For a cage, once built, will close, and the lock will click without mercy. Consider history. Kings bankrupted nations to fund spectacles because they knew the people bowed not to truth, but to the illusion of abundance. The Roman emperors poured gold into arenas not because they were charitable, but because they understood. If the people saw wealth, they would believe in power, and belief is stronger than reality. So too must you cultivate your aura. Even when your pockets are light, your presence must be heavy. Even when your fortune is still small, your appearance must be vast. Because no one ever follows a starving general into battle. Do you think men of power walk around confessing their struggles? Do you think the lion apologizes for his hunger? No, he roars, and even before the hunt begins, the forest trembles. So must you roar, not with words, but with the weight of your presence, your dress, your voice, your silence, your gaze. All must speak before your lips ever move. And hear this. Silence itself is a form of wealth. The man who speaks little is mistaken for wise. The man who moves slowly is mistaken for deliberate. The man who appears unbothered is mistaken for powerful. Appearances are the scaffolding on which empires rise. Ignore this law, and you will be trampled by those who mastered it. Now let me cut deeper. You think life rewards hard work. You think sweat, honesty, and humility will lift you. But Machiavelli would laugh at such delusions, for men are not rewarded for effort. They are rewarded for perception. The world is not moved by how much you do, but by how much others believe you are capable of doing. This is why generals wear medals even when they lose battles. This is why businessmen lease cars they cannot afford. This is why politicians drape themselves in symbols, because symbols command obedience long before proof does. So what does this mean for you? It means you must become ruthless in curating your image. Every detail of how you move through the world must whisper or scream power. The cut of your clothes, the way you sit, the calm with which you react under fire, the refusal to beg for validation, all these form the portrait that others study. And from this portrait, they decide whether to respect you or devour you. But let me remind you, this is not about vanity. This is not shallow posturing. This is survival, because whether you admit it or not, you are judged every second, by friends, by enemies, by strangers in passing. The human mind is wired to measure, to rank, to classify. You cannot stop it, but you can shape it, and shaping perception is the closest thing to sorcery in this world. Think of it this way. A blade is just steel until men believe it can kill. Gold is just metal until men believe it is wealth. And you are just flesh until men believe you are power. Do you understand now? Your task is not to live as a pauper, but to burn the image of greatness into the eyes of all who see you. Your fortune will grow in time, but your aura must arrive first, because if you wait until you are rich to appear powerful, you will never become rich at all. Here is the brutal truth. Those who appear poor attract chains. Those who appear rich attract opportunity. Those who appear weak attract predators. Those who appear strong attract followers. And so, every day, in every moment, you must decide what signal you send. Do you invite chains, or do you invite crowns? Ask yourself this: if a stranger met you today, what story would your appearance tell? Would it whisper poverty? Would it mutter weakness? Or would it proclaim, without a single word, that here stands someone dangerous to oppose and valuable to align with? You must answer this honestly, because the world already has, and it treats you accordingly. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago, and yet most men still live blind, clutching the illusion that truth will save them. They think, if I am good enough, people will notice. But notice this instead: the world is filled with graves of good men who went unnoticed. So cast aside this weakness, abandon the theater of humility, step into the arena armored with presence. Let no eye glance over you, let no tongue speak of you as ordinary, for ordinariness is the slowest death of all. You are not here to live quietly. You are here to be remembered, and memory is carved not by truth, but by impression. Appear grand, and men will follow. Appear poor, and men will trample you. That is the first law of power, and you must etch it into your bones. This is only the beginning, for once you master the art of appearance, you will learn how to bend it, to twist it, to wield it as a blade against others. Stay with me, because what comes next will not only change how the world sees you, but how you control the world itself. You mimic the outer shell, thinking the disguise is enough. You wear the hoodie, the cheap watch, the shoes that speak of nothing, and you tell yourself this is wisdom, that blending in is safety. But you are wrong. The rich wear disguises because they already carry weight. They build their foundations first. Then they choose to vanish behind the mask. They earn the right to hide, because the world already knows their names. You, on the other hand, are still climbing. You are still proving. You are invisible by default, and when you copy their disguise without their power, you don't become mysterious. You become forgettable. That is the truth, and the truth, though cruel, will set you free if you dare to face it. You cannot afford to look poor. Not yet. Not until silence works in your favor. Not until your name walks into the room before you do. Not until your presence is so heavy that absence itself makes noise. Until then, every moment you downplay your signal, is a moment you bury your chances. You think you are buying safety, but you are paying for irrelevance. Remember this: obscurity is not protection. It is suffocation. The crowd will never admit it, but they love wealth. They kneel for it, not openly, no. In public they curse the rich, spit venom, call them greedy, corrupt, undeserving. But in private, they fantasize, they envy, they daydream of switching places. This contradiction, this war of admiration and resentment, is the fuel that moves society. It is not logic that shapes your fate. It is perception, and perception, soaked in envy, becomes the sharpest blade you will ever face. You think dressing down makes you safe. You think it shields you from envy, from attack, from judgment. But it doesn't. It makes you invisible, and invisibility is more fatal than hatred. Because hatred at least keeps your name alive. Hatred keeps you in the minds of men. Indifference erases you entirely, and nothing is harder to fight than being erased. Look at the elites. They do not fear envy. They weaponize it. They build mystique, never showing the full picture, always keeping their audience hungry. They let you glimpse the mansion, but never the blueprint. They let you see the feast, but never the preparation. They post the lifestyle, but hide the labor. Why? Because envy locks eyes on them. Envy drives obsession. Obsession is influence. The crowd is addicted to what it cannot touch, and the rich make sure to remain just beyond reach. This is why simplicity, when performed by the powerful, creates a paradox. The billionaire in a hoodie looks iconic. The beggar in the same hoodie looks disposable. The clothing is identical, but the context transforms it. The world pretends to admire modesty, but in truth it always follows dominance. They don't respect the man in rags. They respect the king who dares wear rags while sitting on a throne. Context is everything. Without it, you are nothing. So stop listening to what people say they admire. Watch what they follow. They follow status. They follow command. They follow presence. And presence is visual first. A genius dressed like a ghost is ignored. A fool dressed like a general commands obedience. The world moves too quickly to pause and discover your soul. If you want attention, you must demand it. And if you want envy, you must sharpen the contrast. When you walk through a room like a king in a land of peasants, heads turn, eyes burn, envy rises. That envy, uncomfortable though it may be, is proof that you exist in their minds. It is the seed of power. You fear envy, thinking it dangerous. But it is not danger. It is necessity. Envy means you are seen. Envy means you are felt. Envy means your shadow lingers even in silence. And the rich know this. They walk softly, but carry thunder. They cultivate envy like others cultivate crops, because envy feeds their influence. The masses will envy you the moment you rise. No matter how humble you dress, no matter how softly you speak. So stop running from it. Own it. Control it. Make it your weapon. Because whether you like it or not, they will project something onto you. Let them project power, not pity. Every room you enter begins a silent sorting. Eyes scan. Judgments are made. Who commands? Who obeys? This sorting happens in seconds, long before you speak. And it is not based on your heart, your character, or your hidden brilliance. It is based on signals, posture, clothing, expression, stillness, energy. 1,000 details others never consciously notice, but all of them combine into a verdict: leader or follower, predator or prey, king or pawn. That decision is made before you open your mouth, and once made, it is nearly impossible to overturn. Do not underestimate this law. Even among the poor, hierarchies form. The man who looks sharp, who carries discipline, even in poverty, commands more respect than the one who surrenders to misery. A clean cut, polished shoes, upright spine. These are signals of order, and order is mistaken for power. Illusion can outweigh reality Because men respond not to truth, but to symbols. That is why some men with less money than you command more respect than you do. They understand the language of signal. They play it fluently. You perhaps have ignored it. The rich never ignore it. Even when they pretend they don't care, they are aware. They invest in presence not for vanity, but for survival, because they know that in the jungle of human interaction, appearance is your roar. If you mute it, you are prey, and prey does not survive long. The world does not reward the good. It rewards the visible. So what signals are you sending? When you walk into a room, do you project command, or do you fade into background noise? Do you rise up the ladder, or are you filed away silently into the bottom rung by eyes that owe you nothing? This is the brutal cost of invisibility. Every job you never hear about, every connection that never forms, every door that never opens, not because you lacked skill, but because you lacked presence. You looked like no one, and so you were treated like no one. Opportunity is selective. It does not knock on every door. It knocks where it sees signal, where it senses force. And when you look poor, when you move like a shadow, when you speak like a beggar, opportunity walks past you as if you don't exist. Invisibility is not neutral. It is a tax, and you are paying it daily. This is why pretending to be poor is fatal, because the disguise becomes your reality. You wear weakness until it clings to you like a second skin, and once you are seen as weak, that image sticks. It follows you from room to room, year to year. No amount of skill will erase it unless you first rebuild your presence. That is why the poor remain poor. They tell themselves they are invisible by choice, when in truth, they are invisible by surrender. Listen carefully now, because this is the counter-strategy. You do not need millions to carry power. You do not need a throne to command respect. What you need is control over your signals, control over how the world sees you. Begin with posture. Enter rooms slowly, calmly, with silence that others cannot bear. Let your stillness create tension. Weak men fill space with noise. Strong men create space with presence, eye contact, restraint, deliberate movement. These cost nothing, but they command everything. Then your clothing. Not expensive, but intentional. Fit over flash. Simplicity over chaos. Neutral colors. Sharp lines. Polished shoes. Not to appear rich, but to appear in control. Because control of self suggests control of more. And men believe what they see. The man who looks disciplined is treated as disciplined. The man who looks careless is treated as careless. That is the law. Your words must follow the same discipline. Speak less, mean more. Do not explain unless it serves your purpose. Mystery is leverage. What cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. Speak in tones that linger. Let silence sit heavy after you speak. Make others break it. That is power. The powerful never chase understanding. They command it, and above all, energy. People follow certainty, not credentials. Even if that certainty is an illusion, walk as if the ground belongs to you. Move as if your future self already exists. Carry yourself like you belong, not because they gave you permission, but because you took it. Conviction is armor, and armor protects even the poor man who carries it well. This is how you rise without riches. This is how you dominate without declaring war. You move as if your success is inevitable, and in time it becomes so. Reputation is forged not by facts, but by repeated perception. And perception, wielded correctly, opens doors no amount of raw effort could. So remember this final law. Never pretend to be poor. Not for pity, not for safety, not for strategy. Weakness once worn sticks, and the world does not reset its perception when you are ready to rise again. It remembers the lowest mask you ever wore and forces you to fight twice as hard to be seen differently. Why fight uphill when you can ascend with signal? Why lower your price when you can raise it with presence? There is no glory in being ignored, no dignity in being mistaken for powerless, no wisdom in hiding when you should shine. Pretending to be poor is not humility, it is betrayal. Betrayal of your own potential. Betrayal of your own command, because every time you shrink, you signal to the world that you are unsure, undeserving, afraid, and the world responds not with kindness, but with silence. So carry yourself as weight, even when you are light. Move with command, even when you are doubted. Wear the mask of power until it becomes your face. Not to lie, but to lead. Not to boast, but to prepare the world for your inevitable ascent. Because the world is never ready for greatness. It must be told, and you must be the one to tell it, not with words, but with signal, with presence, with command that cannot be ignored. Never again pretend to be poor, not in posture, not in dress, not in voice, for to do so is to dig your own grave in silence. If you understand this, you already feel the shift. If you do not, you will remain forgotten. So ask yourself now, are you ready to be envied? Are you ready to be doubted, attacked, resisted, even hated, all in the name of being seen? If you are, then say it aloud, carve it into your mind, and write it in the comments. I will never hide my power again. Let the weak vanish, let the nameless dissolve, but not you. You were born to be seen, to be felt, to be remembered, and from this moment on, you will be.